Absalom Station is the center of the Pact Worlds. Not literally, more metaphorically. They kind of have a big ego like that. The Pact Worlds were formed by a treaty that was signed at Absalom Station called the Absalom Pact. Absalom Station is the heart of the Pact Worlds, governmentally, economically, and culturally. And today we're going to talk about it. Hello everyone, welcome to the table. My name's Nathaniel. This is a channel where we discuss lore around some of your favorite role-playing games and mine. There is a community Discord server where we can actually chat. And if you enjoy what I do, there is a link to Patreon in the description below. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about Absalom. We're going to cover some of the history. I will tell you some of the important places on Absalom, some things that I found interesting. It is definitely not going to cover them all because I don't want to have a half-hour video. Any species of alien can be found at Absalom Station, whether they have been there for a while, whether they are just passing through. If you stick around at Absalom, you will see the unique and you will see the mundane. And the reason that Absalom Station can do all of this is because of a mysterious artifact that can be found in the bottom of the station, and we'll cover that shortly. So stick around if you want to find out what that is. Absalom Station didn't always used to be as glorious and magnificent as it is today. After the gap, it was actually a very dangerous place to be. Everybody had just woken up, and there were a ton of gangs based on religious groups and just criminal organizations. There was open war in the streets between these gangs and these factions. It was not good for anyone. Now, as the chaos from all of these gangs and the wars that were fought, they persisted and they increased, people stopped taking care of the station because it just became too dangerous to do so, or they just didn't care and they left. What ended up happening was a malfunction in the space station's atmospheric system. And it got pretty bad. It was one of those things that once it started, it compounded, and because of all of the things that had been happening, it got worse. Nobody was taking care of the station, don't forget. And basically what was happening, the space station was venting all of the oxygen into space, and it was threatening to kill everyone on the station. With mutually assured destruction on the line, all of these gangs and these organizations were able to put their differences aside. They started working together to solve the problem. These gangs would later form the space station's first government. You could call it that, I guess. It was called the Syndics Guild. And these gang leaders would eventually pick someone to rule above all of them, and they would serve as members of the council. This person was called the Prime Executive, the Primex for short, and the first person that they elected was a woman by the name of Loqua Tim. Now, just after the gap ended, engineers had discovered that the space station that they were now living in, and that Galorion had disappeared, there was a very powerful reactor in the bottom of the space station, and it was powering everything, but it seemed to possess limitless power. This magical artifact was called the Starstone, and it is believed to be the same one that resided on Galorion in Absalom City. This would be the very same stone that Ayamade and other deities rose to godhood by interacting with this stone. Now, the problem with this was the Starstone is locked behind an impenetrable barrier. No one can actually touch or interact with this Starstone. Nobody has been able to get in to the room that contains it. And that doesn't mean nobody hasn't tried. And while it does have the power to run the entirety of Absalom Station with seemingly limitless energy, it was only later discovered that Absalom is one of the easiest places to get to in the galaxy, and it's because of the Starstone. The Starstone serves as a very powerful drift beacon. I have talked a little bit about the drift. You can check that video out up here. As time progressed after the gap ended, you had various government groups trying to take control of Absalom Station. You had various criminal organizations trying to take control of Absalom Station. None of the attempts succeeded. Absalom strove to keep its neutrality, and they still possess it to this day. One notable group who did try to take over Absalom Station was the Eox, and this happened in the year 7 AG, or 7 after Gap. The Bone Sages of Eox launched a full frontal assault on Absalom Station. This event was dubbed the Magefire Assault. They didn't succeed, but it did leave its toll on the station. This was one of the last major attempts by any one specific group to launch a full attack on Absalom Station. The rest of the moves to take over the station have been purely from an economy perspective or political. And again, none of those have succeeded either. Because of their hardline stance for neutrality and not being part of any one specific government, this has made Absalom Station the de facto place to set up your corporate head office. So there are many corporations who run their head offices out of Absalom, not only because it's easy to get to, but also because they keep a neutral stance on everything. Now, the current Primex in modern-day Starfinder right now is Kumara Melacruz. Now, she's only halfway through her term, but she's definitely making some waves as she is cracking down on white-collar crime, and she has a very open stance towards immigration. This has made her a lot of enemies because, you know, white-collar crime, money and greed and power and all of that. She has actually survived one assassination attempt already. I'm sure there will be others in the future. Now, Absalom Station is divided into 4 sectors, and there is a 5th one that is not technically part of the space station, and there are some interesting places to go in each of these sectors. There is basically never a point when the space station does not have a mass of ships around it. The 5th sector is called the Armada, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's basically all of the starships that are around the space station. If you're coming into Absalom Station, the Arms are the first place that you are going to go. This is where all of the docking hangars are. They have the docking bays, some are atmospheric, some are force shielded, some are just open. Those are for the poor travelers. All of the docks are controlled by Absalom Traffic Control, and depending on the size of your ship will depend on where you dock. If your ship is larger, you will probably be on one of the bigger arms that extend out into space, just because you can't actually land in the station. Now, a very popular nightclub that exists in the arms is called the Click Clack Club. It gets that name because most of the clientele, almost all of the clientele, are some form of android or mechanical being. See the Anasites or the androids. You will also see a large collection of folks who have cybernetic augmentation as well. Now, this is a bar. It is also a VR parlor. Now, this club is run by a Dragonkin technomancer, goes by the name of Salu, and his bonded partner, who is a Reforian, Barnaba. The two of them are notorious for running less than legal bets on online games, and anyone who is cybernetically augmented or just a mechanical being is readily accepted at this establishment. While you may be able to find some information or maybe some low-paying jobs, it is possible to get some very profitable contracts if you can beat Barnaba at a game of drift racing. This is of course a VR game, but this club makes for an absolutely interesting spot to be in Absalom Station. The other area of Absalom is called the Eye. This is for the rich people. This is for the companies. This is the top of the station. It is a transparent dome, and you have trees in this area. You get the natural light from the sun. It's very, very nice there. Out of the many places that are here, you can find the Bastion. This is the main base of the stewards. Stewards are basically the Pact Worlds peacekeepers. Here the stewards are trained in the legal laws and traditions of the planets that make up the Pact Worlds. They also get their military training here as well. All of the stewards' movements and missions are managed through the Bastion. Now, when it comes to the Ring of Absalom Station, this is probably the most residential area of the whole station. It does still have some docks, and it does still have some clubs and businesses and things that you can do. It's just maybe not as nice as the Eye. One really nice place that can be found in the Ring is the head office of Abadar Corps, the Golden Vault. I do have a video where I have talked about Abadar Corps. If you are interested, please check this one out here. It is quite an ostentatious place to be. Its logo or its sign is 10 stories tall. If you need a loan, if you need to buy something, this is the place where you will go. Abadar Corps has its hands in everything. Abadar Corps is the Amazon of the Pact Worlds. The Spike is the area that goes down into the station. It's the less glamorous part of the station, which is probably putting it lightly. This is where you'll find a lot of poor people. And you'll also find a lot of the heavy machinery and industrial production of Absalom Station. It all goes down to this part of the spire. And you also have the guts that run the space station, so there's that. One place that you can find down here of some repute would be Diamond, Defense, and Surplus. Are you a mercenary or a private contractor? You need to go to Diamond, Defense, and Surplus. The Yosoki shopkeep called Diamond, who runs this establishment, basically always has a boatload of knives on her. Don't mess with a Yosoki who's into knives. And while she does have a very startling amount of weapons that you can see up front, those who gain her trust can gain access to her premium shop.
What's next?
I need something robust, precise.
Robust. Precise. AR-15.
Could you recommend anything for the end of the night? Something big, bold.
May I suggest the Benelli M4?
In this special shop of hers, she sells only the finest illegal goods. Anybody who knows anybody knows Diamond, and you'll want her to like you. Now, as I said, there is a 5th district to Absalom Station, and this is called the Armada. It is all of the spaceships that are routinely around this space station, being that it's the galactic trade hub. You can get to Absalom Station from anywhere in space within a couple of days. This also means that outside of your regular coming and goings of traders and merchants, space explorers looking to top up before they go on their next adventure, this does also mean that you will have ships who never actually land in Absalom Station, so they don't have to pay the taxes, but will always be there and still somehow manage to keep going. They always have what they need. And some of the best black market deals that you can find will happen on these private vessels. Now, one vessel that is of note within this section of Absalom Station is called Valor's Heart. This is the warship of Iyamade. All of the priests, the novices, initiates, anybody who is basically involved with the Church of Iyamade, they do some training in this massive war citadel. So what are my thoughts on Absalom Station? I really enjoy Absalom Station. It is a fantastic place to have adventures on. You could run an entire adventure. You could run, I wouldn't say a whole campaign here, because there's a whole vastness of space. You could do that, but there's lots to explore in Absalom Station. I would recommend for GMs to sprinkle the life and the depth of Absalom Station into your stories. It doesn't necessarily have to be all-encompassing of your stories, but every time you come back to the station, maybe have your main quest giver or your main action happening at Absalom Station, sending you out and coming back. And every time you'd get to sprinkle in just a little bit more of the depth that's part of this really neat place. Diamond was actually involved in the first campaign that I ever played with Starfinder. I really enjoyed the character and the way that it was played, so that was a lot of fun. Tell me about some of your favorite places in Absalom in the comments below. Thank you to all of my patrons: Autumn Alchemist, Orbs McMellans, RRSPQ, Ducky, Vox, Caneroot, Warpony, Get of Mathrocks, B.A. Bravo, Arutvin, The First Layer, Bones Malone, Westheimer, and Ain't No Waifu. Thank you for the support. If you would like to learn more about the Pact Worlds, I have a playlist selected for you. My name's Nathaniel. This has been The Maple Table. Thank you so much for your subscription. Thanks for stopping by, everyone.